Welcome back to my G1 Retro Reviews. Today we're taking a look at yet another original Transformers Series 2-parter. This time it's Desertion of the Dinobots. In this episode, the Autobots and Decepticons have difficulty functioning due to a lack of Cybertonium. So they send the Dinobots to retrieve some from Cybertron. But the Dinobots must be getting to their equivalent of teenager age because they rebel against the other Autobots and refuse to come home. The first episode of this two-parter begins with a scientist using a remote control to fly around an experimental plane.
Very impressive, Professor Green.
Professor Green? I wonder if he's related to Dr. Green from Rescue Bots. Could Doc Green have been inspired by this G1 character? Or is it just a coincidence that they're both scientists named Green? I guess we'll find out if he has a daughter named Frankie. Also, this plane that he's flying around appears to have two cockpits. Although, why does it even need one if it's supposed to be remote controlled? I don't know. But I do know that it reminds me of Slugslinger, who was a double cockpit plane. We see Ironhyde with his trunk open, and Soundwave and Blaster both sitting in the back together? What? How? Why? Why is Ironhyde just chilling in vehicle mode with his trunk open? Why is Blaster in there? And most of all, how did Soundwave manage to get in there right beside Blaster without him or Ironhyde noticing? I have no idea.
Going someplace, rat cat.
I believe you're thinking of one of Soundwave's other cassettes, Blaster, Rat Bat. Also, don't pull on a cat's tail. That's very mean and painful for them. Aw, poor Ravage.
Ultraplane completed, Megatron.
Ultraplane? That sounds like the name of one of my alt modes. Ultraplane, Ultra Car, Ultra Tank, Ultra Boat, and Ultra Wolf. Maybe that's too much Ultra. Also, there's a joke I could make here, but I'm trying to keep this video clean. So, while the Autobots are distracted, the Decepticons attack the research facility. By the way, the EJK here stands for Earl J. Kress, who is the writer of this episode.
I'll be through in no time. You're through now, Megatron. Optimus Prime.
I missed the G1 cheesy banter between Optimus and Megatron. You just don't get that these days, with all these super serious shows that have to be all dark and monotone. No camp allowed here.
What's going on? So the mighty Starscream is disabled by a little sound and light show.
I guess that makes you the new leader of Oh, wait, you already are the leader. Seriously, doesn't that sound like Starscream would say to Megatron? So the Autobots use their superpowers to defeat the Decepticons. Jazz uses his speakers, Mirage uses his invisibility, and Hound uses his holograms. Again, another thing I love about G1 and how so many of the Autobots had unique abilities. Although apparently Optimus Prime's superpower is kicking Megatron right in the protoform factory. Ouch! That's gotta hurt. Meanwhile, Bumblebee, Spike, and Carly are at an amusement park. Aww, so cute. Also, I guess I should have started on this review before I finished my animated review yesterday. I could have used the footage from this episode in my previous review, where they mentioned Sari and Bumblebee also going to an amusement park. Oh well. So they pick up Sparkplug at the airport, where we briefly see him in a suit. Aww, he looks pretty good in a suit. This makes me wish that the humans in these shows had more outfits, and not just the ones that we almost always see them in. But Spike spots a couple of jets entering a hangar, but somehow doesn't immediately recognize them as Thundercracker and Thrust. Oh well, I guess they are supposed to be robots in disguise after all. B calls for help, and Wheeljack sends the Dinobots, who seem to be kind of grumpy. Maybe they woke up on the wrong side of the CR chamber? So the Dinobots devastate the Decepticons and their secret hangar hideout. Wait, did Grimlock just bite, pick up, and throw Megatron by the butt? Okay, keep it clean, Ultra. Keep it clean. Megatron fires on a fuel truck, which ends up blasting the Dinobots into the air and destroying multiple passenger planes. Luckily, the rescue bots arrive. Hoist, Red Alert, and Heatwave, Inferno, who help put out the fire and recover the Dinobots. Back at their base, the Autobots are nostalgic for Cybertron. We even see a flashback from Mirage. Wait, who is this guy? Is he a friend of Mirage's? If you know what I mean. Also, I'm surprised we haven't gotten a figure of this bot. He does kind of look like he turns into a dark blue version of Bumblebee's Cybertronian mode. Maybe they could do a repaint of that new buzzworthy Origin Bumblebee figure. Although I don't know how you'd manage to pull off that change from an orangey gold robot mode to a dark blue vehicle. Ironhyde and Powerglide working together to help with repairs reminds me of this old cartoon called Greedy Humpty Dumpty from the 1930s. Particularly, there's this scene where they're building a wall. I wonder if this scene in Transformers was inspired by it, because they do seem fairly similar. By the way, for those who have been asking me about Thomas the Tank Engine, portions of this old cartoon were recut to music and featured in the show Shining Time Station, which primarily featured Thomas the Tank Engine clips, interspersed by live-action stories revolving around the titular Shining Time Station. I used to watch this show when I was a little kid, and that basically sums up my whole experience with the Thomas the Tank Engine franchise. If it didn't have Ringo Starr or George Carlin as Mr. Conductor, I haven't seen it. Unfortunately, Grapple continues his streak of bad luck and always having every building he's worked on be destroyed.
Don't worry, Grapple. We all make mistakes.
Not me. Not like this.
Not like this. Not like this.
Back at the Ark, Grimlock and the other Dinobots rebel against the other Autobots, even though they just finished repairing them. That's some gratitude for ya. They must be going through cyber puberty or something. You know, it starts with rebelling against your parents, then it's on to wearing spiky armor and monochromatic color schemes. Next thing you know, they're into experimentation? Let's just hope they use protection. The Autobots don't need to deal with a bunch of baby Dinobots running around.
Hey, I'm stuck! I can't transform! Ow! Thanks! I think.
Aw, poor Jazz. He didn't deserve that. Also, did you see for a moment he was mistakenly colored like Red Alert? Even though Red is right beside him? I kinda want a Red Alert colored Jazz figure now. Hasbro, make that a Generation Selects figure.
It's the arrow! The arrow!
Too bad! He's blown his vocal components. I guess that makes me the new leader!
See, this is what I was saying earlier. So the Autobots and Decepticons have difficulty controlling their functions. And Perceptor deduces that it's the result of an element they are lacking on Earth. Unobtainium. Transformium.
The element is Cybertonium.
Ah, right. Thanks, Percy. It seems I could use a top-up on Cybertronium too. Carly, the beautiful genius that she is, comes up with the idea to ask the Dinobots for help, as they don't have any Cybertonium in their systems, as they were built on Earth. The Dinobots agree and bash their old nemesis, the Constructicons, as they are receiving a shipment of Cybertonium from Shockwave. But the Dinobots end up getting transported to Cybertron, and they refuse to come back.
Hold up your thumb, Spike. Wheeljack supplied this two-way communication device. All you have to do is talk into it.
I feel kind of stupid talking into my thumb.
What if I told you in about 30 years, you'll be talking into a slab of glass that you carry around in your pocket?
So how far ahead are you going?
About 30 years. It's a nice round number.
And this first episode ends with Spike and Carly dodging Devastator and making it into the space bridge. But Shockwave is waiting for them, and he fires into the space bridge, seemingly destroying it. Also, he appears to be holding a tiny version of himself in gun mode. This scene would be homaged numerous times. with his masterpiece figure coming with a handheld version of his gun mode as an accessory. Or if you were lucky enough to grab the Centurion drone weaponizer pack from Hasbro Pulse, it also came with a gray version of Shockwave in gun mode, which could conceivably be held by your Siege Shockwave, if you wanted. Although you'd have to paint him yourself if you wanted him to match the show. And in the Transformers Devastation video game, one of the weapons that you can get is a Shockwave gun. Although, sadly, you can't play as Shockwave or any of the other Decepticons in that game.
To be continued on tomorrow's The Transformers. We now return to The Transformers.
And we're back with part 2 of Desertion of the Dinobots, where the events of the previous episode are slightly retconned, as now the space bridge is totally intact. Shockwave does not have a tiny version of himself, and he does not destroy the space bridge. But he does vaporize Carly's car out from under her and Spike. I doubt her insurance will cover that.
That was my car, not an Autobot! Decepticreep!
Spike and Carly run as Shockwave disintegrates even more things around his own base. Okay, if he can one-shot stuff like this, what is he doing on Cybertron? Why don't the Decepticons use Shockwave against the Autobots? Well, I guess it's a good thing for them that they don't. The room that Carly and Spike find themselves in, along with Teletran 1's recreation of them, oddly remind me of Tron. Shockwave sends the Sentinel after Spike and Carly, not to be confused with the Sentinel computer from Beast Wars. They make it to Wheeljack's lab, where they think they're under attack, but it turns out to just be Swoop, who tells them that the other Dinobots have been captured by Shockwave.
Carly, your ankle. You're not limping.
I think it's better.
What? I don't get it. What was the deal with Carly's ankle? She's hurt one minute, and then she's fine the next. Did they just want to show Spike carrying her? So the three of them make their way underground as they set off various traps, until they eventually reach an ancient part of Cybertron, and they learn its history, which is very interesting. Most of the time when people talk about the origins of the Transformers in G1, they cite the flashbacks in 5 Faces of Darkness. And though that does give a more detailed account of their history, one important aspect that it leaves out is the fact that Megatron did not start the war, like he has in so many other more modern fictional tellings. No, it appears that Megatron was simply the latest in a long line of Decepticon leaders. Which makes me wonder, who are these other Decepticon leaders that predated Megatron? We know a little about the lineage of the Primes, such as Sentinel Prime and Zeta Prime, but we know nothing about Megatron's predecessors. Was there a Kilotron, Hectotron, Decatron, Decisatron, Centitron, Millitron, Microtron, Nanotron, or Picotron? It is very interesting that they mention how many Autobots fled Cybertron rather than fight. This reminds me of the Nails and Colony worlds in IDW. Although we would get some hints in this series of what happened to some of those other Autobots who left Cybertron. In one of the secret files of Teletran 2, narrator Victor Caroli mentions how after Transformers the movie, some of them returned back to Cybertron, including Skylynx, Blur, Cup, Springer, and RC. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Junkions were also descended from Autobots who fled Cybertron. I wonder if Wheelie is the last survivor of another group of Autobots before they were eventually wiped out by the Quintessons. And of course there's Sandstorm and the inhabitants of Paradron, who do wear Autobot symbols. Perhaps they too were descended from Autobot refugees.
Me not know that before.
But unfortunately the gang is captured and brought to the Cybertonium pits, which conveniently is exactly where they want to go. And after Carly fixes the Dinobots, they stage a riot and escape. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier, but isn't it funny how they move around by tube? It reminds me of Futurama. And so Spike, Carly, and the Dinobots bring enough Cybertonium back to Earth to repair all the Autobots. Although in this episode they appeared to be green energon cubes, whereas in the last episode they looked like crystals. I guess that was raw Cybertonium and this is refined. Wait a minute, green energon cubes? This isn't Synth N, is it? And the episode ends with Optimus Prime awarding these medals to Spike and Carly, declaring them to be honorary Autobots, which is very cute. Although I would think that all the time they've had together, they would already be honorary Autobots, but I guess this just makes it official. And this is really cute. Now I want one of these Autobot medals. I wonder if anybody has these on Etsy. This also reminds me of when the Rescue Teens got their own RescueBot badges in RescueBots Academy. Which reminds me, I'm still hoping to get one of those too. I better add that to the shopping list. Well, this was a pretty awesome two-parter. I like that my boy Swoop got some time to shine. He's definitely the cutest Dinobot in my opinion. And I like that Carly also got a big spotlight in these two episodes. I mean, she practically did everything. I'm starting to think that the only reason that she sprained her ankle is because the writer realized that the girl was getting all the good moments, and this is supposed to be a quote-unquote boys show. So they had to damsel her for a minute in order to give Spike something to do. Although I do like how this did give the two of them more time together. There weren't any especially romantic moments in this episode, but at least it helped build their relationship. Overall, this was a great two-parter. It was a lot of fun and gave us some good lore to consider, and how it relates to other episodes in the series. So be sure to let me know what you thought of this G1 two-parter down in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, and do all that other fun stuff. And I'll see you back here next time for the next episode of the original Transformers series, Blaster Blues. Oh good. I am relieved that we are finally back to single episodes again. I don't think I could do many more multi-parters. So I'll see you back here next week for that one.